Hey friends, Pastor Bill Walden here once again with Build Up the Church. God bless you. This is a devotional word for July 12th, 2024. We are in the book of Acts, the Acts of the Apostles, the early church, chapter 19. We see Paul revisiting the city of Ephesus, and he has previously done ministry there. He's back again. We pick up the story in verse 8. And he, Paul, went into the synagogue and spoke boldly for 3 months, reasoning and persuading concerning the things of the kingdom of God. The first century synagogues allowed and invited learned guests to get up and do analysis and a presentation from the Old Testament scriptures. And so Paul, being the learned man that he was, formerly a Jew, formerly a Pharisee, he would present Jesus Christ out of the Old Testament, which is a great thing for Christians to be able to do. Can you share Christ out of the Old Testament? Sometimes we're pretty good out of the New Testament, but it's a great thing to be able to share Jesus out of the Old Testament too. So he was speaking boldly for 3 months on the Sabbath days, so once a week, reasoning and persuading concerning the things of the kingdom. Now, we see once again, and I've recently spoken on this idea of reasoning, and it means to compare thoughts, to take two thoughts and to set them side by side within your mind and to do a comparison and to do an analysis. So many people in those days who were in the synagogues, they had some kind of working knowledge of who God was. They had some kind of working understanding of the Old Testament. But Paul, would introduce Jesus from the Old Testament. Now, these people, he was asking them to set seemingly opposing thoughts side by side and to think through these opposing thoughts. And so Christianity is a thinking man's game. Certainly, we feel things towards God, but we don't want to throw our minds out the window. And so the Apostle Paul asked his listeners and he reasoned with them. He would propose something and say, now, what does this mean? If it means this, then this. If it means that, then that. And he was asking them to think through things. So it says that he was reasoning with them, but he was also persuading them. And I really love the definition of this word. It means to persuade, to induce one by words to believe, so and to encourage them. You have this, you have this. Now, compare these thoughts and come to a conclusion. But I really like this definition of the word persuade, to make friends, to win one's favor, to gain one's goodwill, or to seek to win one, to strive to please, to move somebody to persuasion. Christianity is a thinking man's game. We can come to faith in a moment of emotion, and that certainly doesn't cancel out the validity of an emotional or a firstly emotional experience with God. When I became a Christian, I didn't know much, but I knew enough to say this prayer, 16-year-old kid, God, if you're there, I'm ready for you. And so I was availing myself to the person of Jesus, and he began to show me who he was in my soul, in my spirit. But the Apostle Paul didn't force anyone. He didn't compel anybody to renounce Judaism or to renounce the Greek pantheism or anything like that. He reasoned with them. He asked them to put thoughts side by side in their minds and then to come to a conclusion. And he persuaded them, if they were understanding things perhaps more clearly now, to follow through and make a commitment. So, reasoning and persuading. Once again, I love the phrase, it's a thinking man's game. Christianity is a thinking man's religion. If you are someone who you would consider yourself maybe an agnostic, you don't know if God is there, or a skeptic, you're not quite sure, or maybe you consider yourself spiritual but not religious, which is a real popular phrase in these days. And I understand spiritual but not religious. Some organizations of religion can be very dehumanizing and expect robotic performances and robotic responses and allegiance and behavior and almost ask you to not think, just do what we say, don't think it through. But that's not Christianity. Jesus invites us to consider him. Jesus said in the Gospels, learn of me. And so, once again, you might be an agnostic, you might be an atheist. So an agnostic, you're not sure about God. Atheist, you say there is no God. Seeker, you're not sure. You might be spiritual but not religious. You like the idea of somebody, something out there, but you don't want people shoving things down your throat. Hey, I'm right there with you. I don't want people shoving things down my throat. But it still requires, and Christianity invites you to take this thought and set it next to this thought. Creation, Big Bang or creator. Life purpose, selfishness and satisfaction and self-gratification, or love your neighbor as yourself. Marriage, one man, one woman, or anything goes. How to raise children, let them raise themselves, don't tell them what to do, or instruct them in the way they should go. Christianity is asking you to be reasonable and to allow someone to reason with you and to reason with you in your own mind. What is God saying? What does the Bible say? And then maybe you need some persuasion, because sometimes when we step away from one worldview into another, it might cost you something. It might cost you some pride. It might cost you some friendships. It might cost you a reputation. But Jesus said, listen, if you want to follow me, you've got to lose your life and then you'll find it. So I've never regretted one day of my life being a Christian. Anything that I may have lost is exponentially and infinitely repaid in my heart. So some thoughts for you. Paul reasoned and persuaded. Allow yourself to be reasoning with your own mind. And then if you find the truth is not what you originally thought, allow your heart to be persuaded. Nobody's going to force you, but God invites you. So some thoughts for you. Thanks for watching.